And here's an overview of the bumper project on the Sidekick. Now this whole bumper is made out of 3/16 plate. Every single piece is a flat piece. I didn't bend anything on the brake. Every piece was cut out with a cardboard template and either run through the CNC table or just cut out by hand. The end bells, the one on this side and the one on the other side, are fully TIG welded inside and out, and they are actually air reservoirs. There's a little over a gallon of airspace in each one, and they're tied together with air lines to this air chuck right here. So for airing my tires up and down, I can just use this. And 2 gallons of airspace isn't a whole lot, but I got that Viair 400C air compressor in there, and having that little bit of air reservoir space allows the compressor to continue working as I'm changing tires, so it really cuts down on the amount of time it takes to air tires up. I remote mounted the solenoid pack down inside of the bumper body where it's out of the elements, and then just I mounted this the actual winch cable plug right here. So that keeps everything out of the elements. Hopefully it'll make the solenoids last a little bit longer. The license plate is just mounted with some mag-light clips right on the roller fair lead. That seems to work out pretty good. I've done quite a few that way. So I got a full roller fair lead there, Warn M8000 winch. I've got 2 of these, I can't remember, I think they're 8-inch LED light bars that I've got mounted down in the body, and I've got them, probably hard to tell on the video, but I've got them skewed just a couple of degrees off of center, so they help cast some light out to the left and right of center. I've got a tow hook mounted right here, and that makes it a whole lot easier to hook tow straps up. The inside of this bumper body actually has ribs in it, which strengthens the bumper body for when I'm pulling really hard with the winch. And the Suzuki emblems right here, I cut out on the CNC table, and they're actually just mounted with one center stud and then bolted tight in there. So they're not welded on there, they can easily be unbolted. Then for controlling the air compressor and the lights, I got these 2 Carling Contura switches right here. So here's the compressor. And then for the lights, I actually used a 3-position rocker switch. So center position, where it's at right now, is off. Down position is on, so right now the LED lights are on. And then the up position is tied in with my high beams. So they actually come on when I turn my high beams on. And so that's really handy if I'm wanting to run them for some reason, you know, out in a back road and someone comes up around the corner at night. I don't have to remember to turn the LED light bars off. They just go off when I flip my high beams down. Well, I started off by removing the factory bumper cover and the metal support behind it. And they were in pretty rough shape. Just years of road spray had really taken their toll, and it was definitely time for them to go. And once I had those out of there, I just took some pieces of flat steel and bolted them to the frame rails, and then just started tracing out some designs on them with the soapstone. And once I had the basic shape in place, and I was sure that a winch would fit on there, and I liked the way that it looked, then I went ahead and started cutting with a plasma cutter. And I just kept making cardboard templates and taking those over to the welding table and transferring them over to metal and cutting pieces out and tacking them onto the bumper. And that's really the way the bumper just took shape. Just kept adding little pieces, and if I liked them, I left them and worked off of those, and if I didn't, I knocked them off and tried something else. And once I had the basic shape of the bumper in a way that I liked it, I went ahead and started thinking about the lighting. And I happened to have these 2 rectangular LED lights sitting in boxes on my shop shelf, and I'd had them for years. So I decided to put them in this bumper. And rather than pointing them straight forward, I elected to point them just a couple of degrees off of center, just so they would cast some light out to the sides of the vehicle, rather than putting 100% of their light straight forward. Now for those in-bell type reservoirs, I just went ahead and finished welding the plates on there to make those fully enclosed. And I did TIG weld those, hoping that there would be no air leaks. In order to make those back plates, I just kind of tweaked a piece of steel to fit in my vise rather than trying running it through the brake. I had to come up with something on the bottom of the bumper to protect the bottom of the radiator and the AC condenser and the power steering lines. So I went ahead and cut some angles on the bottom right there and made it just big enough to so that the air compressor would fit inside of there, and it would provide adequate protection for the bottom of the radiator. And I went ahead and set the winch on top of the bumper and marked and drilled the holes for that, just to make sure it would fit there and none of the controls or wires would interfere with the grill. Now once I was done with that, I took the bumper back off and I pressurized the in-bells with shop air, just to check for leaks. And I went ahead and sprayed them with soapy water and then looked for bubbles and listened for air. And I actually found a couple of leaks in each in-bell. I was really hoping with the TIG welding that I wouldn't find any, but I managed to find a couple of pinholes that I had to grind out and fill with the TIG welder. And that's where I mounted the air compressor. Then for the winch solenoid pack, I went ahead and disassembled that because I wanted to mount that inside of the bumper out of the elements. And then I just took the actual winch plug and mounted that remotely on the surface of the bumper. And once I thought I had everything in place on the bumper, I went ahead and bolted it back on the Sidekick just to make sure none of the parts I had added were going to interfere with anything that was on the Sidekick. And then I went ahead and set the bumper up on the sawhorses, and I painted it with a rattle can black, and then went ahead and coated it with a couple coats of Permalac satin, just for UV resistance. And in order for the air lines to clear the frame horns on the Sidekick, I had to actually C-notch those, and that allowed for the clearance for the air lines. And once all the paint was dried, I went ahead and put it all back together. And once I had the bumper bolted in place on the front of the Sidekick, I went ahead and wired up the switches for the air compressor and for the LED lights. And that was it. The project's finished. I have a one-of-a-kind bumper that added a little bit of style and definitely some functionality to my Sidekick.